Welcome to the Opposition Preview. So, hello everyone and welcome back to the Bleed Norwich YouTube channel. Championship action tomorrow night. What was a relegation six-pointer might not be. I mean, it might be for Oxford maybe. But it is Oxford United away tomorrow night. Not a place of happy hunting ground for Norwich. Still sour memories of the Johnny Rowe situation from last time. But I have Jack Ward from the Jack Ward Football Podcast with me. Jack, how are you today, mate?
I'm good, buddy. I'm good. How are you? It's been, like you say, it's interesting because we spoke about it last time. We had the reverse fixture and it was definitely a relegation six-pointer. Can we call it a six-pointer back then? I think we probably can. This one, you've clawed your way out of trouble. We're still well and truly in trouble, but again, we've changed our manager as well. So many dynamics have changed. So much has happened. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting. It's a big one tomorrow night. It's a really, really important one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think for both teams, I mean, if Norwich win, they really do steer themselves clear. If Oxford win, it really puts the pressure on West Brom, Blackburn, and Leicester, and Portsmouth, and all the other teams that are falling down there, Charlton. So it is a massive game for both sides. And like you say, last time we spoke, it was only a couple months ago. Philip Clement it was his second game in charge, I think it was at the time. You had Gary Rowett. Gary Rowett seemed like the perfect man to sort of be able to keep Oxford United up. And now he's parted ways with Oxford United. You've got Matt Bloomfield. What's the take on Bloomfield so far?
Yeah, I really like him, mate. I really do like him. I think, yeah, to sort of go back to what we were saying about Gary Rowett, I think I almost sort of said it in the show that we had back then. It was a distinctive style of play. It was, you knew what you were going to get, really. If you won games playing like that, then that was going to keep Oxford in the league, which ultimately was always the ambition, not expectation. Very, very different. But when the results turn, it gets really tricky. When the results turn and when you're finding it difficult to pick up results and you're not playing very well, that's a recipe for disaster. And unfortunately for Gary, as much as we appreciated what he did for us in the season prior, which was a miraculous achievement in terms of staying in the league, something needed to change, something needed to give. And we did that with Matt Bloomfield, and there was a lot of eyebrows raised with that appointment. A lot of people, like you just almost said there yourself, it was, why are we getting rid of a know-how gaffer at this level who keeps teams in the league for fun, replacing him with someone that was relegated from this level last season and didn't have a great stint in League One with Luton. Did have a good League One stint with Wickham, of course, and Colchester in League Two, but his championship record isn't very bright. Certainly nowhere near as bright as Gary Rowett's. But what he has done is galvanised a lot of people. He's galvanised the group for sure. We've picked up some good results, some not so good results, but we certainly feel as though we feel a bit more positive about things. I think the fans are certainly buying into his methods and the way that he is trying to really build a connection with them, which I think in some ways Gary Rowett didn't really want to do, and that not really in a solely negative way. His priority was purely winning games of football and finding ways to win, which is, everybody does it differently. Matt Bloomfield is trying to find a healthy balance, but he does appreciate how fans are crucial to any team's successes, whether it's at the top end or the bottom end of a table. But yeah, it's significant, really significant. And I think this chat would have been very different if we had done it straight after the Sheffield United game, which was really challenging about a week ago. And then we're off the back of a really good point against league leaders Coventry and kept a clean sheet in that game. So I think it's one of them where it does change a lot, which is why the relegation battle is so fascinating, because within the space of a couple of days, everybody's opinions are totally different.
It's spot on. I think, if you guys win tomorrow night, Norwich do get dragged down into the relegation battle once again, and it becomes very, very open for any team to make it out. And it, like you say, just one result can change the mindset of the fan base, the club, the players. But just looking from the outside into Oxford United, I can't say I've watched masses of you guys this season, but when I have seen parts of Matt Bloomfield's sort of football, defensively, you look very, very resilient. I believe it's 3 clean sheets in his opening 6 games.
He's over doubled the tally for the season, which is impressive.
I mean, I think if you've got to start somewhere in terms of improving a side, defensively is definitely one place to start. And I mean, a point against Coventry, league leaders at the time, what the best attack in the league, that must be massive.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because I think the general consensus was you sack Gary Rowett, you go for Matt Bloomfield. Everybody sort of thinking in their heads naturally, and we were the sort of the same. It's like, well, we're clearly going for a less defensive approach, and we're going to score more goals. He might concede a few more, but that just hasn't been the case. It's been the total opposite in a way. The goals have, I think, probably stayed the same, but defensively we look a lot better. And that was something that he said in his interview when he came in, and that's one of the big ticks we've seen so far is that structure and that organisation. We do look like a lot more organised. We do look like a team that are going to be hard to break down. We look like a team that are going to throw things at it in order to pick up points and in some cases win some games as well. Leicester being the win, and obviously that point against QPR, the point against we played a game Bristol City, and then of course Coventry at the weekend, and we were totally on the back foot in that game. We ended the game with 10 players, which didn't, made it even more difficult, but we were throwing everything at it. And that's something that Matt Bloomfield has definitely instilled in this group is we are going to give absolutely everything to make it difficult for the opposition. And that's something that you normally would associate with Gary Rowett, which at times it did feel like that, but others it didn't. But with Bloomfield so far, we have seen lots of elements that can relate to that. So yeah, it's amazing how perceptions and stocks and managers and people's thoughts and feelings can so drastically change, because I've been surprised by the way that we've improved defensively under Matt Bloomfield, to be honest.
Yeah, no, he's done a fantastic job. And what you said about sort of galvanising the players, the fans, and all coming together as one. The scenes after you did beat Leicester and him running up to the fans, I thought was fantastic. And it's something that you'd love to see from a manager, especially in sort of tough times like a relegation battle where everyone's sort of on side, all singing off the same hymn sheet in terms of trying to get out of the relegation zone. But talking about the relegation zone,
Mm.
obviously we are coming. I mean, it is only February, but come March, April, May time, it's only around the corner.
Yeah.
Very much crunch time. Is there still belief in the fan base that Oxford United can stay up?
I think there is. I think it's it was last Tuesday we played Sheffield United, and I sort of put a tweet out, and it got a few too many likes actually. I sort of said it quite emotionally, and I regretted it quite quickly. But I did say something along the lines of Oxford the Championship is like putting me in top set maths, and I'm not very good at maths. But what I actually meant by that wasn't throwing negativity. It wasn't about it wasn't a positive line, I'll be honest, but it wasn't about sort of slamming anyone or blaming anyone. It was a golfing quality, mate. It was a golfing quality. And I think at times this season, there has been a sheer golfing quality, which is what we expected. It's just how many times you're going to have that in games, because too many times you're not going to pick enough points and you're going to get relegated. And we're fully understanding of that. I think we're quite honest, really. We are quite honest with how we sort of are approaching this. You think you have to be when you're Oxford United at this level. But one thing that we have got, and it's sort of in answer to your question and sort of contradicting the point I said about the Sheffield United game and more looking at the point against Coventry. The teams above us, there's so much turmoil. I look at Leicester, I look at West Brom, Blackburn, a lot of teams there in crisis. And if you sort of ask the fan how they felt about their football club, it would be completely different to how you ask fans about Oxford United. And we're lower than them. We've got less points than them. We're 23rd in the Championship. I think that's really fascinating, because I think that side of the sport is just as important as results. Obviously, results is what's going to keep us in the league, but I think they come normally hand in hand, and that might play in Oxford United's favour. To be honest, that might be a big advantage for us, because we know we're underdogs, but we've got nowhere near as much pressure as a West Brom, as a Leicester, as a Blackburn have. These are established Championship. Leicester Premier League winners in the last, was it 10, just over 10 years. So the pressure is absolutely nowhere near to the level of those clubs. And I think for Oxford, there'll be games where we're going to get beaten comfortably. But if we can find enough points in there with home games, with teams down there, and we can pick up wins, because wins is what's going to ultimately sort of turn the needle, if you like. But there is a real difference in the way that we are in comparison to teams above us. And that might play a part. It might not be enough to stay in the league, but I think it's definitely going to make it a lot tighter than what people maybe expect from this position.
No, absolutely. And yeah, no, I like the comment of sort of the teams above you being in turmoil. Blackburn just got rid of Valerian Ismail. Club's been a mess for a number of years now. Leicester, 6 point deduction. Owners are a mess. Can't make any signings. West Brom have just sacked, who was it now? I can't remember their old manager's name.
Ryan Mason.
Ryan Mason, that is it. That's it. Yeah, and they brought in Eric Ramsey, who seems to be doing a fantastic job over there. So you've got all the means there in terms of cohesion and unity to get above those teams, because those teams will keep dropping points the longer they stay in the mess that they're in. But looking ahead of tomorrow night,
Yeah.
the one player who I did see is missing and who has been a very key player for you, someone who we did speak about last time, Will Lancashire, he is suspended. Is that
Yeah.
going to be a big miss?
Um, yeah, he always yes, because he is a really talented footballer. He didn't start the game against Coventry, which is quite interesting. He came on. We started with no strikers, brought a striker on, and then the striker got sent off. So I think we were trying really hard to not play any strikers in that game. We sort of went with a bit of more of a fluid front three with sort of wide players really sort of playing in that front line. I think we sort of went with a bit of athleticism, really, and sort of we knew that we were going to play on the break. I think having a fox in the box striker was never going to work against Coventry because we weren't going to make enough chances. Maybe against Norwich, although you do look much better, we might have a few more chances. So yeah, in that sense, he's going to be a miss. And Lancashire does do things away from the ball. I wouldn't say he's massively as effective in transition, but I think, yeah, of course, someone of that ilk and someone that has scored a good number of goals for Oxford United in comparison and in relation to the amount of chances we've created. But I don't think as much as maybe people think, and that's nothing on Will Lancashire. I think that's actually more on the team from a wider perspective, really, because I feel sorry for any striker that has to play for Oxford United because we don't create a lot of chances for our number nine. So that is something to bear in mind as well. So I think, yeah, of course, he's going to be a miss. Of course, someone of that quality you'd like to have in a game if possible. But I think there's far worse positions to lose players. I think I'd much rather lose a striker than one of our defenders or one of our midfielders because they're involved a little bit more, I think.
Yeah, no, spot on. Because I was just about to come on to two midfielders who, again, we spoke about heavily last time. Cameron Brannigan and Brian de Keersmaker
Yeah.
both seem to be excelling in what is a relegation battling Oxford United side, and those two have really stood out to me over the course of the season. When I have watched Oxford, your midfield does seem to be fairly strong. How pivotal have they been this season in terms of actually just getting you guys points on the board?
Yeah, I think you might be in luck because I don't think Brian de Kirchbach is fit for tomorrow's game. He's been out for I think the last couple of weeks, so I don't expect Brian de Kirchbach to start the game, which would have been a big problem when we last spoke. But we've actually since signed Jamie McDonnell from Nottingham Forest, who was on loan at Mansfield and was doing exceptionally well with Mansfield in League One, and he's come in and I think he's been the midfielder that we've really lacked, not just this season, but for a very long time. And that's a proper ball winner, a proper hustle and bustle, destroying midfielder who may be on the ball. I don't think he's going to win. He's not going to win most assists, for example. I don't think he's he's that kind of player. But you've got Brannigan who can do that, so that's okay. But you're right. I think Brian de Kirchmacher technically is an exceptional footballer. Him with Brannigan, of course, we really like the two top players for us. But I think in terms of complementing and sort of partnerships, I think could be more beneficial for where Oxford United at this point. I think that partnership of Brannigan and McDonough are going to be really important for us. Whether we go with the back three, we've changed formation since we last spoke as well. Bloomfield's come in and moved to a three with wing backs, so he has done in the last couple of games. Whether we stick with that, I'm not sure, but I think after a point against Coventry and we use that same system that played against Leicester, and we won that game. We did play against Sheffield United and we lost, but and Birmingham, so it's been mixed. But I don't see that changing massively. But you're right. I think the midfield is going to be where ultimately games are won and lost. And thankfully for us, we've got Cameron Brannigan and a whole host of midfielders next to him that can come in and do a good job. But most recently has been Jamie McDonough, and I've been really impressed with that partnership.
Yeah, Jamie McDonnell is only one of many signings you've made this January.
8, yeah.
Oxford United have been very, very busy. I mean, you've got the likes of Imaku, who you signed permanently from Millwall, Jamie Donnelly, who you signed on loan from Spurs, who was on loan at Stoke first half of the season, Jinwoo John from the South Korean League, Miles Pitt Harris from Brentford. I mean, those are just a few names I've got written down here.
Don't we'll be here all day. We'll be here all day if we go forward.
Have you done enough business, do you think, to bolster the squad to make sure it's ready to battle this second half of the season?
I don't think we could have done much more, to be honest. I think in terms of in terms of numbers, I don't think we literally couldn't do any more because of our registration. We actually have a massive squad, or we did until we terminated a couple of contracts and loaned a few players out on deadline day. But the squad was massively bloated. I think in terms of our window, and I sort of said this, and I said this in the podcast I was doing a second ago. I think Oxford United's strategy changed drastically in January with the players that came in. I think we looked at it, and as fans, sometimes it's hard to accept this, but I've just about got to realization, and I can now officially, I think, feel comfortable saying it. I think we built a squad to, if we do go down, we look in a much better shape in at that level. And I think that was clearly, if you look at the age profile, if you look at the players, McDonnell, he's 21, Miles Harris, I think he's 22, 23. Those have been the standout new additions. Makoso, we got on loan from Luton, who looks a really tidy centre back. He's only 21. We've got an option to buy in there as well. I think it's very clear that Oxford have got to a point in January where we can sort of walk away from the month and go, we've got players here that are going to, of course, fight for their lives to stay in this league. That still is the ambition. We're not just resigning and sort of going, that's fine, we're happy to get relegated. But if we do get relegated, you've got a squad there with, one, assets to sell, which again isn't very nice to say as fans, but that's the way that football has to be run. If you're a side like Oxford United who can't pump millions and millions of pounds in, that has to be a way of generating funds. And by the only way you really do that is by having assets to sell. And if you do keep hold of them, players that can make a real impact and be top League One players. That's the pessimist and the sort of, I guess, glass half empty view on it, but there are still positives within that. But then you've also got a really young, hungry set of footballers that, of course, want to be competing in the Championship. And they're going to have an opportunity to do that. Like you say, we've added additions, and we have added some slightly more experienced additions. I don't think we've signed anyone over the age of 30. I could be wrong, but I don't think we have done. So I like what we've done. I think we've refreshed the group, and we needed to do that. We needed, one thing you can do when you are in a difficult place in the league table heading into January, if you've got the ability to do it, is refresh the options we've got. Add something a little bit different. Add a couple of profiles that we haven't got in the squad. Add a bit of dynamism. Add a few more personalities as well. These are all things that are going to be massively beneficial for any opportunity of staying in at this level. So, I don't think we could have done much more, mate. I like the way that we went with it. I think it was it was much better than signing players that maybe were 30 plus on big contracts that might have been Championship know-how specialists. That's all well and good. But if you get relegated and you've got them on 10, 15 grand a week in League One on 3-year contracts, then you're in a big mess. So in terms of which direction you wanted to go in, and that's quite difficult when you're in the position where we are, I think we definitely chose the right one.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, with teams being in the relegation zone in the January transfer window, it is those teams that do tend to be the busiest in the window to add new personalities, new players, a bit of quality, players that want to fight in the relegation battle and survive, players that want to play in the Championship, players that want to prove themselves. And you look at those sides around you as well. You look at Blackburn, West Brom, Leicester, the three teams above you, barely done any business. So in terms of that sense, obviously, it does definitely give you the sort of a bit of an advantage over them that you have got these new player profiles in the squad to help you get you out of the relegation zone. Yeah, we'll go on to sort of back onto tomorrow's game. Obviously, we spoke about a few players. Is there anyone else that Norwich fans should be a little bit fearful of or should keep an eye out for?
I think there's more than when we last spoke, to be honest. I think that's for sure. Miles Harris has come in and been a revelation for Oxford United, and we had some real mixed reviews at Pompey in League One. I don't think he got massively rave reviews. He was part of the side that won the league, but he came in mid-season. I'm not sure if it's a fair assessment. At Swansea, he did really well. I think he got some really positive things said about him. Then he got a bad injury and then had to be recalled by Brentford. But he's come in and been really good. He's athletic, he's big, he's strong. He played up front in the game as a sort of almost a false nine. I don't know if we can be that technical when we're Oxford, but it was almost kind of like that. Someone that was sort of far more technically gifted to drop a little bit deeper. He can get you up the pitch as well with those big strides that he's got. He's also a quick footballer, which is helpful if you are going to play in transition, which is something that Oxford United, of course, have got to be using if they're playing anyone really at this level. So I've really enjoyed watching Miles Harris play. I think as much as I think being fearful, can Norwich fans be fearful of a centre back? I don't know, but Makoso has come in, and I've sort of already mentioned him. He's been really good, mate. And I think he was one that we didn't really know a whole lot about. He played a big part in Matt Bloomfield's Luton side that did ultimately get relegated and didn't really get an opportunity under Jack Wilshere. And when you're loaning players from League One, you're thinking, okay, I'm not entirely sure on this one. He hasn't played many games in League One either. So what's going on there? Um, but he looks really, really good. He's athletic. He's quick. He looks good on the ball as well. We haven't seen so much of his passing, which has been maybe deemed as a weakness at his time at Luton. But in terms of traveling with the ball and actually his dribbling for a centre back has been really, really impressive. So I've really liked him too. So and they're both players that, of course, joined us in January. So that must say something about the window already making a positive impact. So I think there are a few more players to be worried about, mate. I think there are a few more players that Oxford United can use to their advantage and hurt Norwich with. And I know, of course, in your current situation, you've got a lot of players out injured as well. So that's going to be interesting to see how that matches up.
Yeah, it will be very, very interesting to see how both teams line up. Because, like you say, we've got a host of injuries. So we're looking at Mohamed Toure starting up front, Sam Field coming into midfield, two new signings who both impressed on debuts at the weekend, but we're yet to see what they can do for a full 90 minutes. So very different lineups to what we would have seen back in November. But are there any players that you're fearful of going into tomorrow night?
There's a few more now. I've just done a video on Norwich, and I've had a bit of a deep diver into your squad, and actually a player that we couldn't speak about because he wasn't a Norwich player when we last spoke. But Ali Ahmed has been really, really good, and I've been really, really impressed by his impact. I think he's the winger that you've been crying out for all season. It was clear you didn't have those wide options. The wide options you had have been injured. I know Papa Diallo has picked up an injury as well, and I think he's someone that I've been very fearful of. I think with Ahmed on one side and Diallo on the other, you've got that pace that you just didn't have, and that's massively dangerous. And of course, a big positive for you. But Ali Ahmed has been really, really good. And I would also say Makama as well, who looks like he might not be playing. I've been really impressed by him and his impact. The one player that I know probably will be playing tomorrow, who I've also been very impressed with, is Ben Slimani. I think his revelation. I mean, it's a renaissance of Ben Slimani, really, in terms of the way that he was almost asked to leave in the summer. Didn't really get that opportunity under Liam Manning. There might have been a few injury issues there, but he wasn't getting a sniff. And then under Paul Clement, there were still question marks. I remember when your lineups came out, I sort of saw a close eye, and there was people in the reply sort of going, "How's Ben Slimani still in this team? Why are we still playing him?" And then suddenly he's clicked into gear, and now he looks like the attacking midfielder and the number 10 that you didn't think you had, and you maybe needed to look at in January, and that probably changed your plans in January because he's been so important. So yeah, I've named a couple of players there that I don't think will be playing tomorrow, but then a couple that I think will be, which I think says a lot about how more positive and how much you've come on really since we last spoke, because there's probably only a couple. I think one was probably Josh Sargent, and I mean, the less we speak about that, the better.
Yeah, no, spot on. Yeah, no, I mean Norwich have come on leaps and bounds under Philip Clement's reign. It's the turnaround has been astronomical. And like you said, Anis Ben Slimani is probably a very sort of key indicator of that. A lot of Norwich fans wrote him off start of the season. Obviously, he was asked to find a new club, and we couldn't find one. Didn't sell him on. Wasn't Liam Manning wasn't his biggest fan. He had an injury that set him out for till December time, and then Philip Clement slowly brought him back in, and these his goal contributions over the last few games have been the numbers are crazy for a number 10. So yeah, no, long may the Anis Ben Slimani reign carry on. A lot of Norwich fans absolutely adore him now, and Ali Ahmed has been one of the signings of the January window. I think in the Championship he's been fantastic. Like you say, the winger that Norwich have been crying out for. But just to finish off the Leeds Norwich opposition preview, what is your score prediction going into tomorrow night?
That's really difficult. I think I was going to say Oxford United probably need to win the game more. I don't know if that's necessarily true. I think it's always easier to say that as a fan of that club. I think a draw you'd probably be okay with. I mean, look, it depends what your expectations are. Are you getting so excited that you feel you can go on a late push for the top six, or are you sort of just going, should we get out of this mess and forget about it and go again? I've got a feeling. I hate saying that we're going to win, but I think I'm going to say it. I think we probably do win. I think there's a bit of PTSD from Norwich fans that you said at the start about the Kassam and about Norwich coming to Oxford United. And actually, in the game against, in the game we spoke about that finished 1-1, we were completely out of that game. We didn't deserve to get anything from it, and then we still managed to get something from that game. So that was, I think, the same the season before as well, away from home. So you haven't got the greatest record against Oxford, which scares me, because that means we've got a decent record against the team, which again petrifies the life out of me. I'm going to say Oxford United win this game 2-1, which sounds ridiculous. We're 23rd and you're on a fantastic climb, and I've said great things about you. But I just feel as though Oxford United really need this. And maybe that's playing a part in my prediction. But I feel as though we really could do with a win. We do need to, because ultimately draws are great and draws are all fine. But wins is what Oxford United currently need in this position.
Yeah, I think Norwich fans look at this bulk of fixtures that we've had after the Middlesbrough game is that Oxford United away is probably going to be our toughest one. Not necessarily because of league position, obviously, but you guys are seeming to be our bogey team. Obviously, away from home, start of last season, then we had the Johnny Rose saga, lost 2-0, then drew 1-1 later in the season. Again, like you said, that Oxford United were barely even in the game. And then the 1-1 this season where you saw yourselves score a 95th minute equaliser. So, yeah, I mean, there is a side of me that fears that. But I think under Philippe Clement, Norwich fans are just all have really bought into him. And I'm going to go for a 1-0 Norwich win. But that's more out of hope than expectation, because I can easily see in this being a draw or a bit of a banana skin for Norwich. But Jack, before we end up finishing the opposition preview, let the Norwich fans know where they can find you and watch your content.
Yeah, pretty good time to do that, because I've just done a video on Norwich. I've just done a tactical breakdown on Norwich, and not just tactics really, just a general sort of feel around what's gone on and what's improved under Philippe Clement. So, yeah, Jack Wood Football Podcast is where it is on YouTube. That's the latest video on Norwich. I think that's the most relevant one for you guys. And I really did enjoy looking at Norwich and sort of having a bit of a deep dive into the improvements you've made, because I think what Philippe Clement has done is pretty drastic. If you compare it to some of the things that we saw in the Liam Manning, it's night and day. So that's the place to be for that video. And yeah, hopefully we've had some nice comments from Norwich fans. They seem to be much happier, it feels. I think there's a video on positivity around Norwich, which hasn't been the case all season, which I think has put a smile on a couple of fans' faces.
Yeah, definitely. I would urge all Norwich fans to check out that video. Watched it on my train journey into work this morning and almost missed my stop. So, yeah, certainly.
It's engaging. That's good.
That's the thing. It's engaging. It's definitely worth the watch. But we'll leave all Jack's links in the description below, so make sure to go check him out. And like and subscribe this video, and subscribe to the channel, of course. And we'll see you next time.